I was once a lone wolf without a pack. But now I stand in the arena that will determine my fate. Chapter 49. Jerome. I couldn't help but wonder what was wrong. Erica's mood swing was something I wasn't expecting. What was going on was totally strange to me. I felt the need to know what was wrong, but I didn't have the chance because she had walked toward the pack square. I knew that it would be hard for me to know what was really going on, but with my guess and her behavior, she seems to be jealous. I knew that she might have been jealous of Mabel being with me, and all sorts, but I couldn't help but wonder what was going on. I couldn't help but wonder why she walked up to me suddenly jealous. I knew she had every right to be jealous, but not to the fact that she would yell at me. She seemed to have different mood swings. I knew that she might have thought that I'm going to get together with Mabel. What she doesn't know is that there is no way for me to go back to Mabel. I knew that all I could do right now was to wait for the duel to be over. I knew that was what she wanted to call me for, and she would have told me if not that she was angry with me. She was angry that I was with Mabel. I couldn't help but wonder what her reactions would be if I told her that Mabel is my friend. I knew that it would be hard for her to believe me, and she might even accuse me of wanting to cheat on her. I see no reason to participate in the duel if I actually don't want to be with her, but I want to. She is just trying to make things hard for me. My eyes were puffy red, not knowing what to do. I made my way tiredly toward the pack square. I knew that I was filled with lots of energy earlier, but it all vanished immediately after seeing Erica angry. I watched the match keenly, not wanting to lose any details. I knew that anybody can be my opponent tomorrow, and the person would have to be one of those who won today. I knew that tomorrow's match won't be as tough as that of the day after tomorrow. I watched the brutality each one of the alphas use, and I knew that all what they were doing was a show-off for me. I knew they wanted me to feel beneath them, and that's what I was feeling. I knew that I shouldn't play their tune, but he can't stop himself from doing that. My eyes were puffy red, and all I could think of was nothing other than my defeat tomorrow. I couldn't help but wonder why I was planning the final duel. I know I can't sure, but there is no way that will stop me from fighting in the duel. It hurt me to know that I might lose the match to one of the alphas, and there will be nothing I can do about it. I couldn't help but wonder what I would do if that was to happen. I knew that I won't be able to bear the shame, the embarrassment that comes with me losing my mate to another man because I'm weak. I've never felt this useless in my entire life before. I felt like some used tool that was thrown away. I felt like the moon goddess was punishing Erica for making her my mate. I knew that if it was that the moon goddess had made someone as strong and as of status as her, then she wouldn't have been passing through all this. I didn't know when the crowd started dispersing until I saw Samuel walk up to me, tapping my shoulder, which jolted me out of my thoughts. I stared at him for a while with a creased eyebrow. I felt like he was hiding sometimes from me. It has been a long time since I last saw him because he has been busy. I only saw Victoria, and when I did I could see how busy she was. "What's wrong?" I asked him while staring at him curiously, unable to hide the hunger for what was happening. "I can see that you want to have some rest, but sadly you can't. There is no time for that. You can see your opponents, and we can't take it lightly. You need to go train," Samuel said, and I sighed heavily knowing that he was right. There is no time for us to waste, and if we keep stalling time then things won't go well. I knew that if I can't train as much as I can today, then it's definitely a loss for me tomorrow. I knew that I wouldn't have won today's fight if not for the help of yesterday's training. I knew that any training I'm to receive will only help me improve my skills and know how to fight against my opponent. I knew that today would be a huge night, but I knew that I had to see Erica in private. I knew that if I don't talk things out with her, then I won't be able to concentrate during my training, and that might cost me to lose the duel. I knew that those I'm up to aren't lower class werewolves, and I might get killed or be injured by one of them, and I don't want any casualties to happen in the duel. "I will be there shortly," I said to him, and he nodded his head politely before walking away. I walked toward Erica, who was fuming with anger as she sat on the chair while puffing out breath from her mouth. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilgan, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing enthusiasm." "It isn't what you are thinking," I started calmly, even though my mind was in disarray. I don't want her to see that side of me, and I was doing everything in my power to hide it. "You should know by now that I don't want to share you with anybody, but instead you were all over her." "How dare you do that?" I heard Erica's voice yell angrily while staring at me. "I can explain." "Erica," I replied, sounding desperate for her attention, and she turned to look at me with flames in her eyes. You should do better, she replied with her hands placed on her hips, staring at me dramatically. I felt my heart twitch with fear at her words. I couldn't understand why I felt scared of her. I haven't felt like this since the time we have been together or have known each other, but I have not been scared of her since, but now I do. She just told me to break off the engagement in the proper process, and she returned the ring I had put on her hands. I was only trying to help her up. I was trying to help a friend. I was saying, but I was cut short by Erica. A friend? When did you guys become friends? She asked while glaring at me murderously. My teeth were clamped together, not knowing what to say. We became friends today, and she said that we can still be best of friends just like we were when we were little, I said with a curt bow. I could feel the effects of her aura, which almost forced me to my knees, but I tried hard to overcome them. I don't have anything to say to you anymore. You should keep going with your friend. Erica muted disgustingly. You don't have to behave like this. Mabel isn't as bad as you have portrayed her. She is actually a nice person, I was saying when Erica chipped in. She isn't as bad as you thought, so why don't you go to her? She replied. Talking of the devil, here she is. Erica added with an angry look on her face. My mouth dropped open and I was about to reply to her when I felt the presence of Mabel behind me. Her legs were making so much noise as she made her way toward me. I turned my head to look back, and there I saw Mabel marching toward me, hurried with an unknown expression plastered on her face. Jerome, we need to talk, I heard her say impatiently, and I felt the blood in my system dry immediately. I couldn't help but wonder what to do. I knew that things won't end well here and there is nothing I can do to escape. I knew that there is no way Erica would allow me to go with Mabel. I knew that she would be angry if I was to follow Mabel. I feel like it would be more than just this day that I'm to choose what to do. I knew that whatever I do would influence whatever they want to do. I was placed in a tight corner, and I was literally confused on what to do. Chapter 50. Erica. I ignored Jerome's existence as we watched the duel. My heart was aching and all I could do was sit down while trying to pretend like everything was alright. I don't know what I would do if he happens to want to be with her. I knew that things won't be as good as I have planned out before the duel if he happens to lose, and not only that, if he goes back to Mabel. I knew that it would be cruel of me to separate the two of them if he happens to lose the duel. I wasn't praying for him to lose, but I knew that's what I should be expecting. I knew that if I don't think of him winning, then I might be able to get over him easily. I shrugged true thoughts out of my head and tried hard to focus on the duel. I was angry with the way Jerome defended Mabel, and I can smell something fishy. He kept trying to tell me that nothing is going on between the both of them. And he kept saying that she only wanted to be his friend, but all I can see is just excuses for him to be with her. I knew that he didn't want me to suspect anything going on between the both of them. I couldn't help but feel like Mabel is up to no good. I knew that I didn't like her presence before, but now I feel like she is up to something. I couldn't help but think that she hasn't gotten over him yet. I feel like she wants something that will make him want to be with her. I feel restless because I don't know what she might be up to. Jerome was talking to me, but I wasn't hearing what he was saying because I was angry. I was asking questions whenever he tried to defend her, but what happened next shocked me to my bone marrow. As we were arguing, I saw Mabel walk up to us with a worried expression on her face, and my heart beats heavily. I knew that she was up to no good as she approached us. Jerome wasn't aware that she was coming, but I did. My body stiffened waiting for what she was here for, but what she said shocked me. Jerome, we need to talk, she said immediately she got to us, ignoring me. I turned to look at Jerome, whose gaze was on me. He also seemed taken aback, but I knew that might be part of their plan. I knew that this might just be an act to talk to him, but I wasn't going to let him go with her. I felt hurt that Jerome would want to see her, and I'm not going to stop him from seeing her. If he doesn't want to be with me, then why would he keep toying with me? I felt like a used person now, knowing what to do or say. I feel like all this was my fault and that there is no way this will happen if I haven't brought him here. I feel like he was just doing all this to make me pay for bringing him to my pack forcefully. You can say whatever you want here. There is nothing wrong with saying it here, Jerome said, and I smiled in satisfaction while staring at Mabel. The look on her face was priceless. I thought this wasn't a plan, but I knew not to believe it easily. Go ahead. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm, staring at her with a smirk on my face, and she rolled her eyes. "I need to see him privately. I can't disclose it here," Mabel said, and a frown was plastered on my face. I couldn't help but try to think of what she was trying to do. What she just said made me believe that all this was a plan all along. My brows were furrowed with confusion while trying to solve the things going on between the both of them. My gaze hardened as I stared at Jerome, who was fidgeting with his fingers. He seems to be lost in thoughts, and I stared at him while trying to read through him, but I couldn't. I haven't been this confused in my life until now. My eyes were filled with curiosity, waiting and hoping that he wouldn't accept talking to her in private. I don't know what I will do if he agrees to talk to her in private. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nogan, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing enthusiasm. "I will be back soon," Jerome said, and he stood up from the chair which we were seated on in the garden. My face went pale immediately. I felt my heart stop beating instantly, and when it started beating back, it was thumping loudly. My heart was in pain, and I stared at him with a shocked expression on her face. I knew for a fact that she isn't up to something good, and I feel like it is about our relationship. Mabel turned to look at me with a smirk on her face, and I could tell that she was happy with my reaction. I knew she was happy that I don't trust Jerome, and that I feel uneasy whenever they are close to each other. She knew that she has the upper hand, and I knew that I shouldn't let her have the impression of that, but it was too late. "Fine then. Suit yourself," I said to Jerome, who stared at me pleadingly. I knew for a fact that he doesn't want this also, but there was nothing he could do also. The both of them walked away, and I stood up angrily while staring at their retreating figure. My eyes were filled with unshed tears as I stared at them. They had stopped at a spot which was above earshot, and I knew that whatever she wanted to tell him was a secret. She was holding his hand while they were walking, and it looked like she was dragging him. I had thought that she had left already because I couldn't smell her scent, but now she appeared out of nowhere. I felt uneasy and restless as I watched her hold his hands tenderly. I knew that there is no way I would stay here not knowing what they were discussing. I stared at them for a while, and when I saw that they weren't looking, I walked away from the spot where I stood. I took some turns, and within seconds I was just a few legs away from Jerome and Mabel. I stared at them curiously, hoping that I would be able to keep my presence away from them. I don't want Jerome to know I was peeping on him. I knew that it wouldn't be good if I was caught by him. It won't be any way bad if I was to be caught by Mabel. "I want you to stop fighting in this duel," I heard her say, and I clenched my fist angrily. I couldn't believe that she would say such a thing to him. I knew that I should have expected this from him before, but I didn't. My gaze hard, and while trying to think of what to do, my eyes were filled with anger that all I wanted at that moment was to rip her through her head, but I don't want to do anything that will make Jerome mad and angry with me. I knew he would be angry with me if I killed his friend out of a fuss because I was angry. I tried hard to keep my calm, and after a while I was able to keep my calm. "You and I know that I can't do that. There is no way I will do such thing. I will fight till my caught breath to be with her. And hopefully I will be with her at the end of all this," Jerome replied, and I felt the anger I was feeling earlier vanished immediately. My cheek had turned crimson red and I blushed. "I know you are, but are you ready to fight to death? You and I both know that there is no way for you to win the duel against alphas. I know you won't back out. I know you will want to fight to death. Do you think that is a wise decision? Do you think it worth it to lose your life because you want to be with your mate, who will end up being with another man after your death?" I heard Mabel say, and my heart stopped beating instantly. I knew that what she was saying was right. What is the point of him fighting in the duel if he will end up losing me to another man? I know Erica doesn't like the fact that you might lose your life, but she can't say it because she doesn't know how you will feel. She added. Chapter 51, Mabel. I stared at Jerome with a concerned look on my face, even though I was feeling angry inside, not wanting him to quit anymore. I have no concern about him anymore. All I wish for right now is nothing but pain and suffering. I wanted him to suffer in the hands of those he will fight tomorrow, and I knew that there was no way he would be able to win in the duel. I am confident about it, and I'm going to come just to watch him get humiliated. I wouldn't have wanted to come tomorrow if I didn't want to see him get hurt badly. I don't count the stress of having to come here. I knew for a fact that if I was to come here before, I would have to be forced, but that isn't the case. I'm willing to come here not because I was forced, but to see my fiancé who broke off our engagement to be with his mate, but to lose her to another man. I knew that it would hurt his ego, as I have said, but he doesn't seem to know that it was all my plan. I knew that he would feel discouraged, but I don't want him to feel discouraged for him to stop fighting in the duel. My gaze softened as I stared at him, but if he was to know what I was thinking, then things won't be good. I know you feel concerned about me, but there is no way I'm backing out of the duel. I will do whatever it takes to be with my mate. Nothing will stop me from making her my mate. I will go to any length to be with her. He replied, and I smiled softly while staring at him with an understanding look on my face. I was just letting you know. I felt concerned about what you just said, and you don't have to worry, I got your back. I will support you with whatever you want, I replied with a fake smile on my face. I knew that what I was saying wasn't true because there is no way I will support him unless it has to do with his downfall. I won't let myself get close to him if it isn't for his downfall. I will make sure that he regrets ever messing with me, and the same with Jerome. Thanks. I appreciate that, Jerome replied, hugging me, and I faked a smile while patting his back slowly. I was boiling with anger as I hugged him because it made me remember the time we spent together. I don't want to remember that. I was still lost in thoughts when I felt the flowers which were at my front move, and I knew without a doubt that the person who was there was no other person than Erica. I knew that she didn't want me to be alone with Jerome. And an idea suddenly popped up in my head. What if I make her jealous? I knew she won't be able to keep herself together and wouldn't want to talk to him for a while. I knew that they were having an argument before I walked up to them earlier, and I knew if I was to hug him longer than a normal hug. I knew that since he was the one who initiated the hug, then there is no way she wouldn't feel jealous. I knew that she might think that something is going on between the both of us. I will be here tomorrow to watch you in the fight. And make sure not to disappoint me, I said immediately. I disengaged from the hug with a dreamily smile on my face which I tried to hide. I knew that what I just did would cause a feud between them. I bet that they wouldn't resolve it as quickly as possible. I knew that me doing this while trying to get closer to her would confuse her. Thanks, Mabel. I really appreciate it, he replied while showing his white teeth. I couldn't help but smile at the thought of his white teeth turning crimson red if he was to hit on his mouth. That's what friends do, I said with a smile while patting his shoulder with a smile on my face. I need to leave now. It's getting evening already and I don't want to be late before I get home. I don't want anybody worrying about me, I said to Jerome, and with that I walked away from him. Yes, it's true. You may take your leave, he said with a bow while stretching his hands dramatically. I walked away from him and headed toward the pack's border to where the leader of the council was. I wasn't going to be saying nice words to him. It wasn't for that fact that I don't want to cause trouble in this pack. I knew that I could get killed for not respecting him, which I don't want. I don't want to lose my life because of him. And there is no way that would happen if I was to follow his orders. You are back earlier than I thought. How is it going? I heard him ask immediately if he saw me. He doesn't accept. He said he would fight to the end, I replied with my head bowed, not wanting to get into trouble for disrespecting him again. You can take your leave, I heard him say, and I stared at him with shock evident in my eyes. I had thought that there is no way he would let me go off so easily, but I was wrong. I was so shocked by his reply that I stared at him with shock. Don't you have ears? He asked as he stared at me with his gaze, boring holes in my body. I walked away from him. I stopped all of a sudden when I heard him call me back. My heart was beating heavily, not knowing what he called me back for. I feel like something is wrong and that there is no way I will be able to get off easily. Chapter 50 to Mabel. I shifted into my wolf's form and I ran toward the direction of my pack with my clothes in my mouth. I ran as fast as I could so as not to meet any rogues on my way back home. I knew that there was no way a rogue would be here, and that was because the place isn't somewhere rogues could move easily, but I'm not ready to suffer from any attacks. As I ran, what was on my mind was nothing other than the weird council member. I couldn't understand why he would send me to go inform Jerome about that and even tell me not to mention his name. I feel like something weird is on. My face was frowning confusion as I ran with all the strength in me. It was getting dark already, and I would have verses gotten to the pack if not what has gotten to the pack if not but Alpha's blood. I sighed heavily as I walked into the pack, and I walked behind a tree to shift before wearing my clothes. I walked to my room with a tired look on my face. As soon as I walked into my room, the smell of food hit my nose. I stared around the room and there I found Sandra. Look who's back here. She joked. Immediately I entered and I rolled my eyes while staring at her with an unusual smile on my face. "Hi, how have you been all day? It must be boring, right?" I asked, staring at her with a gentle smile on my face. "And I'm glad you aren't at home. You would have disturbed me all day," she replied, and I chuckled while removing my clothes. "That isn't my concern. I will get back to you after I'm done having my shower. And of course eating," I said as I winked at her. "Don't worry, I won't bother, but make sure you tell me all that happened," she replied with a smile on her face. I don't know why I was smiling, but I guess it is because I will go to the clubhouse today. Wednesdays and Fridays are the scheduled day for the club. I have made up my mind to be a carefree person and make sure not to get bothered by anybody. The last time I went to the clubhouse, it was fun and I have sex. It has been some times now since I have been to the club, and I'm now used to having sex, and I occasionally have it here in my room whenever I feel horny. I was out of my bathroom within seconds, and here I was sitting on the bed with the new clothes on. I licked my lips while staring at food in front of me, which aroma was salivating. I started eating the food. My eyes were filled with happiness from eating the food. "You seems to be in good mood," she said after a while, and I stared up from my food while raising my eyebrow. She seems to have been staring at me for a while now. "Yes, is anything wrong with that?" I asked, staring at her curiously, and she shook her head sideways. "Do you see Jerome?" she asked, and my mood suddenly changed. My face turned into a sour one. My eyes were filled with sadness, having to remember what happened. "It is just like you have said. He isn't a trustworthy person. But I'm over him," I said, and he sighed heavily before turning to stare at me. "It's a good thing that you are over him," replied Sandra. "You should get yourself ready as soon as you can. I have been waiting for you all day for us to go to the house club," she replied, and I sighed heavily before replying. "I know you would have been prepared." "I'm also prepared," I replied with a pause as I gulped down a glass of water. I was going to savour the taste, but I will rush the food now. I also can't wait to go there. We would have a lot of fun tonight. I ordained that I rushed my food down my throat, and within minutes I was done. I gulped down a cup of water. Mabel walked into the clubhouse and she headed toward the inner room of the clubhouse, not minding to do anything. She was happy and angry at the same time. She was happy that she would get to watch Jerome suffer tomorrow, but angry because he had said all that to her without feeling remorseful about it. She knew that she had to move on, and she hated Jerome for turning her into who she is today. She knew that there was no way she was going back to her old self. She felt like her old self had been destroyed by Jerome. She walked into the room which the person she intended to have sex with is in. That was their normal spot, and immediately she walked in, she was met with the sight of the man she wanted to have sex with. The man sat on the bed, and he stood up immediately when he saw her. She felt happy and walked toward her. They both kissed passionately, and after a while he bit her lips and she moaned out in his mouth, giving him the opportunity to slide his tongue into her mouth. He removed her clothes with his hands, and one of his hands went to her breast to take off her brassiere, but he found none, and he used his hose to fondle her breast. He pulled away from the kiss and his mouth went to her nipples. He took her nipples into his mouth while pleasuring it. And he didn't forget the other, because he started fingering her breast. He changed his mouth and also did the same to her other breast. Althea was busy moaning out loud, and with that he trailed kisses over her body till his mouth were close to her pussy. She wore transparent and sexy pants, and he brought his nose close to her pussy, inhaling her scent, and she could feel a tingle of excitement run down her spine. He tore her pants within seconds, and he started pleasuring her pussy with his tongue while sucking and nibbling her pussy. Soon she came really hard, and he licked her pussy juices off her. He removed his dick, which was now hard, and he brought it close to her pussy before inserting it in her well-lubricated pussy. He kept on thrusting into her with a slow pace while taking his time to reach her limit, and he could feel his dick hitting her womb. He was also pleasuring her body at that time also, and after what seems like hours to them, but barely an hour, they both cummed hard. They both chatted about their organisms, and they both laughed at each other's jokes. Mabel felt contented for having sex with the man that day, and she intended on having sex with him the other day. And that would be in her room. She has become addicted to sex, and all thanks to Jerome, who made her like that. Jerome might not know that he has hurt her greatly, but she did, and she was going to make him pay for that. They slept in each other's arms like lovers even though they weren't. Chapter 53 Jerome. I sighed tiredly as I walked out of my bathroom looking refreshed. My eyes were filled with dizziness, but I was able to stay awake. I had a migraine since it has been long since I last had decent sleep. And most especially it has been long since I last slept, and it is now taking a toll on me. I knew that this isn't the time to complain because of things like this. I have made up my mind that I was going to have enough rest after the duel. I made my way out of my room and I headed towards the PAX hall to have my breakfast. I trained all night and Erica has been acting weird since. I couldn't understand what was wrong with her. I feel like there is something going on that I'm not aware of, but there is no way I would know if I don't ask, but I'm not ready to. I'm going to let her tell me on her own accord, and if she doesn't then I will wait for after the match. I will talk to her after winning the duel. I knew that Mr. saying that I will talk to her after winning the duel isn't going to happen, but I had faith in me that I will win the duel regardless of the consequences. And I pray that the confidence I have does not leave me. I sighed heavily as soon as I got to the dining hall and I walked silently toward Erica's table. "Good morning," I started, and she turned to look at me for a second before removing her gaze from me. I couldn't help but wonder what to do to make her say her mind to me, but I decided not to anymore. I have made up my mind that I'll reply tomorrow. Tomorrow is the final of the duel and I was thinking about it without winning those at hand. I knew that it wouldn't be easy for me to win today, but I have faith that I would. "Good morning. How was your night?" she replied, and I smiled at her cutely. "It was great, all thanks to someone," I joked while staring at her. She knew that I didn't sleep all night and that was because I was training. Samuel had also taken part in yesterday's training. And when they all left I kept on practicing, now minding that I didn't sleep. I knew that if I was to win the duel then I would be able to sleep as long as I wanted peacefully. There would be nothing for me to worry about, but sleeping now isn't going to work because I might not have the chance to win the duel. I don't train hard. I was only trying to train myself harder from not sleeping, and it was paying off. I was glad for all that, and I couldn't be more happy to have Erica and her family with me. They were the only people who had helped me so far in the duel. I knew that there is no chance of me lasting up to now in the duel if I don't have Erica and her family. I was glad that they were supportive of me. Erica glared at me, and I sighed heavily, not knowing what to say. We sat there in silence with none of us trying to break the silence. I was going to break it, and I stopped, remembering that she might ignore me and I wouldn't want to embarrass myself in front of the whole pack, even though I was embarrassed by winning shamefully. The food was served and soon the aroma filled the room. I followed suit after Erica had taken the first spoon in her mouth. Erica ignored me till we were done with the food we were served by the maids. She has been ignoring me since we got back from the garden yesterday's night. I don't know why I feel uneasy about it, but I shrugged it off my mind, not wanting to let that get into my way. I knew that if I kept on thinking about what was happening around then I would have no chance of winning. I walked out of the dining hall immediately and I was done having my breakfast. I made sure not to eat more than I should because it might cause me downfall in this duel. I knew that if it was other things then I wouldn't have been this cautious about it. "Look who we have here," I heard Stephen say as he walked up to me. I couldn't help but cower back in fear, not knowing what to do or say. "You seem to be happy that you are winning the duel, right? Well, enjoy it while it lasts because we are not letting you win today," Alpha Stephen said with a smile on his face which I wanted to wipe away so badly. My gaze was guarded as I stared at him. I couldn't believe he would be here to mock me. "We will see to it," I said with a disposable look on my face. I knew for a fact that what I was showing outside isn't what I was feeling, but the opposite of that. I wasn't happy having to know that all alphas who are to fight me in the duel are against me. I knew that I might not be able to win, but I'm going to make that possible in any way I can. Soon the duel has been announced and I'm going up against an alpha. It was said that everyone would have some rest, and that's after fighting their first opponent. It was said that whosoever wins in the duel would be up next against each other. Only 4 winners are expected after the first round, and I have made up my mind to win in the first round, and I knew that I might lose in the second round, but I'm going to do everything possible to win. I was told that the next contestant to win after me is going to fight me. I felt the blood in my body dry up instantly. I knew that the person must be a top-notch alpha to win. And if things were to get out of hand then, I might have no chance to win. I shrugged all that out of my mind, wanting to focus my attention on the person in front of me. I watched as the person charged at me and I slid under his legs, escaping his punch. I dashed toward him with a punch and he dodged it by grabbing my hands. I gave him an uppercut which made him fly back. I knew that I shouldn't be showcasing my strength just like Erica's father had said, but there is no way that would happen. I have made up my mind not to hide my skills but face the person. I groaned in pain as I was punched on my stomach. I moved back with panic and fear. I couldn't bring myself to watch him beat me up. I stood up and I dashed toward him speedily, not knowing where I got my speed. I punched my opponent with full force and sent him crashing to the floor. I walked up to him and all I could hear was the uproar of the crowd. I stared at the man who was on the floor lying unconscious. The man seemed to be shot, but before he could react I tossed him out of the ring. The crowd was still cheering and I turned to look at Erica's face and I saw a smile on her face. The head council had announced the winner of the round, and it turned out that next round was that of Alpha Steven and an Alpha witch. I don't know his name. My blood went dry and I knew with no doubt that there is no way the Alpha would be winning because of how strong Alpha Steven had portrayed himself to be during yesterday's fight. I watched curiously Alpha Steven beat him fearlessly, and within minutes the other Alpha was down. The Alpha doesn't want to admit defeat, but he later did after knowing that he might get killed by him. I watched as the next person came into the ring. I watched curiously, not knowing what to say or do. I watched as the opponent of the Alpha was named Ryder. The Alpha seems to be the toughest of all Alphas. He had a cold demeanor on his face. The Alpha he was to fight was trembling with fear, and the Alpha mustered up some courage and he attacked him. His attack seemed slow and as soon as he got to Alpha Ryder, he was punched down. The Alpha immediately admits his defeat. I was shocked and I knew with no doubt that this must be the Alpha I would be fighting in the duel. The next duel took place and they both fought well. The person who won the duel lacked strength and I knew that he would get easily defeated by the Alpha. Chapter 50 For Eric, I couldn't help but keep giving Jerome cold shoulders. I felt like this isn't something I want to do. I was giving him cold shoulders because I wanted to be sure that none of this is their plan. I felt like there was something going on between Mabel and her. I feel like Mabel was after something and the same goes with Jerome. I watched curiously as the fight between him and Steven ensued. I knew that Steven wouldn't take it easy with him. I knew that he would want him to give up, and I knew that the only way he could do that was to hurt him. I knew that Jerome won't give up easily and I instantly regretted ever giving him cold shoulders. I was shocked with Jerome's improvements when he first fought today, but I knew that all things that glitters ain't gold. I knew that he might not be able to hold up against Steven. I felt my blood run cold as I think of what would happen. Jerome is going to get hurt for the fact that he isn't as strong as Steven is. My face turned pale as I turned to stare at those who were seated close to the ring, and my eyes landed with that of Alpha Ryder, who has a smirk on his face. He stared at me with a smile which I found creepy. His eyes pierced through mine and he looked at me like he could read through me. I could feel goosebumps from on my body. He pointed his hand at Jerome and made a gesture with his hands which he made it like he wanted to cut his head off. I could feel my body turn cold and I start sweating immediately. I knew what he meant, and that is he was going to kill him without mercy. He had a victorious smile on his face before turning to look at him with a smile on his face. He seems to be happy with my reaction. I knew that what he wanted me to feel is what I was feeling. I couldn't help but feel scared that he might kill Jerome. I knew he was ruthless, but I didn't have a feud with Jerome. And I knew with no doubt that this was all a plan. I knew he wanted to get rid of him so that he wouldn't be a problem to him after he won. I knew that this was what he wanted to go, but there is no way I will be telling this to Jerome. I knew that he won't allow that to happen and he might want to confront him before tomorrow. I won't want him to think that I wanted him to back out of the fight. I feel like I was thinking in a selfish way. I couldn't help but feel bad about the whole thing. I feel like this is something I should have expected. I knew things will be good, but I tried to believe everything would be all right. I was too foolish to know that things won't end up like I want. I know that I don't want him to fight in the duel, and a part of me wants him to fight and prove himself worthy of being with me, but I don't know which path I should take. I knew that I should have chosen a way that would make things easier. There is no way I'm going to let anything unexpected happen. I feel like this was a threat. I haven't felt confused like this in my whole life. I feel the need to be with my mate, but I knew the implications. I knew that he might not win the duel and might end up getting killed. I knew that he might not want to give up easily on fighting to be with me, but there is no way I would allow that. I was lost in thoughts, but I was jolted out of my thoughts with the cheers of the crowd who were here to watch the duel. I snapped out of my thoughts and I concentrated on what's going on. My eyes widened in shock at the sight. Jerome was on the floor bleeding on his head. Stephen was towering over him with a triumphant look on his face. My heart was beating rapidly as I stared at his figure, who was laying on the floor with blood covering his body. I felt the need to go into the ring to fight Stephen, but I knew that doing that isn't a good idea. I managed to calm myself down and in a way that could only stare at him with tears dripping down my eyes. He has never been injured in any of the fights he has with anybody, and this the first time for him to get so much injury. I couldn't help but think of what had happened. I felt like there was something hidden that was used in this fight. I knew that no one noticed anything wrong in the fight, but I did. I stared at Stephen angrily, while trying to sniff out what was weird about him. I feel like something's wrong, but I couldn't pinpoint it out. The last time I remember, Jerome was holding up against him and he was having the upper hand. Then why did he suddenly fall to the floor? I sighed heavily after a while of searching, but I couldn't find it. I turned to look at Victoria with raised eyebrows, and with a quivering tone I asked her the question. "What the hell is going on?" I asked while staring at her with curiosity written on face. I had cleaned the tears in my eyes. He used some skills against him. There is nothing suspicious. Jerome doesn't want to give up. Look. Pointing at Jerome, who was now on his feet. He staggered towards Stephen and he carried him, and with that he threw him out of the ring. I smiled happily. I couldn't help but to be glad that nothing out of blue happened. I was glad that he was able to win in the fight, but I could notice that he was exhausted. I stood up from where I was seated, and I walked toward his direction with a worried expression on my face. He walked out of the ring and headed toward his room. "Jerome," I called, and he turned to look at me, and I hugged him tightly, and after a while he winced. I released him from the hug, and I kissed him passionately. I haven't been this happy in my whole life. I was glad that he won the fight, and most especially that he was back on his feet, even though he is injured. I broke the kiss when I heard the clearing of throats behind us. We are close to his room and we were the only ones there before. I knew that everyone was at the packed square where the duel was taking place. I turned back and my eyes darkened with anger, seeing that it was Mabel. SBE stood at our back with a worried look on her face. "Are you all right?" she asked Jerome while staring at him with a worried expression on her face. "Yes, I'm fine," he replied, and I knew that things won't be good if this continues. I stared at Mabel and then at Jerome. I couldn't help but think of what to do or say to make them stop talking and take him to his room. I don't want her to know the room. He needs to watch all these. And you don't have to worry. You can leave to watch the remaining match. I bet you won't want to miss watching it, I said to her, and she nodded her head. "See you later, Jerome," she said, and while saying his name rolled out of her mouth seductively. I stared at her as she walked away while swaying her hips. I couldn't help but wonder what she was trying to do. I can remember how she hugged him yesterday with her hands lingering on his body. I felt jealous while watching them, but I couldn't do anything. "I'm glad you won today." "I feel happy, but I feel scared. You should be careful," I said to him as we both walked to his room. "You don't have to feel scared about anything. I'm going to scale through everything with the moon goddess wish. There is no way fate can be changed. If you are destined to be mine, then you would. The moon goddess won't let us be apart if we are meant for each other," he said, and I nodded my head while hoping that it should be the moon goddess wish for us to be together. "You need to have a shower. I will select the clothes you are going to wear before you are out of the bathroom," I said to him, and he nodded his head before walking away. Chapter 55. Mabel. I was excited to see Jerome being beaten by the Alpha. I wasn't expecting him to take on the Alpha himself. I was hoping to see him fail while trying to fight the Alpha, but I was wrong because he was able to win against the Alpha. I was shocked with that, and that was because I don't expect an Omega to beat an Alpha in a fight. I knew that is what most people expected, and I was happy that the next person he was fighting wasn't like others who were beaten up easily by Jerome. The last one beat him to the extent that blood dripped down his body. His whole face was covered with blood, and I was happy to see that. I was glad that he was beaten, and I knew that there was no way he would win against the next person he was to fight because of how brutal the person was. The person almost killed his opponent, who was an alpha. I knew that Jerome stood no chance against the man, but I have my doubts. It is now hard for me to believe that Jerome is an omega. He fought like a top-notch warrior when he was fighting against the alphas, but his speed betrayed him. I knew that if he was to have the same speed like the alphas he fought against, then there is no way he would lose the duel to any of them. I wasn't happy with the fact that he won in the duel, but there is nothing I can do or say about it. I knew that he has no chance of winning tomorrow, and that was because the person he is up against is ruthless alpha, would not stop or think twice before ending his life. I was glad that things were starting to work my way, and I feel like him winning today is a blessing in disguise. I was back at home, and the sight I saw was something I wished for. The door of my room is not locked, and I knew with no doubt that it was Carlos who was inside the room. Carlos is the name of the man who I have always had sex with. I used my eyes to scan the room, and my eyes landed on a figure who was under the duvet. "I'm back. You must have been missing me to have come here earlier than I thought," I said, and I heard him chuckle heartily. "You don't know how long I have been in here waiting. It seems like you were gone for a day," Carlos replied, and I smiled. "Get under the duvet," he commanded, and I smiled with an eye roll. "Not too fast. I need to take a cold shower," I said to him, and I heard him grumble. I walked into my closet, selecting some clothes to wear. I took the clothes with me to the bathroom. I returned shortly, CL added in the clothes. I jumped under the duvet happily. Carlos flipped the duvet away from their body immediately. She got under the duvet and it landed on the floor beside the bed. He towered over her and he could see the clothes she wore. She wore a sexy nightgown, and he knew with no doubt that she wore the clothes for him. He gently placed his lips on her and they battled with their tongues while fighting for dominance. After a while he bit her lips and she moaned out of his mouth, giving him the opportunity to slid in his tongue into her mouth. He removed her clothes with his hands, and one of his hands went to her breast to take off her brassiere, but he found none, and then he uses his hands to fondle with her breast. He pulled away from the kiss and his mouth went to her nipples. He took her nipples into his mouth while pleasuring it. And he didn't forget about the other, because he started fingering her breast. He changed his mouth and also did the same to her other breast. Mabel was busy moaning out loud, and with that he trailed kisses over her body till his mouth were close to her pussy. She wore a transparent and sexy part, his nose close to her pussy, inhaling her scent, as she could feel a tingle of excitement run down her spine. He tore her pants within seconds, and he started pleasuring her pussy with his tongue while sucking and nibbling her pussy. Soon she came really hard and he licked her pussy juices off her. He removed his dick, which was now hard, and he brought it close to her pussy before inserting it in her well-lubricated pussy. He kept on thrusting into her with a slow pace while taking his time to reach her limit and feel his dick hitting her womb. He was also pleasuring her body at that time also, and after what seems like hours to them, but barely an hour, they both cummed hard. They both chatted about their organisms, and they both laughed at each other's jokes. I woke up and I used my hand to search the side of the bed with my hands, trying to find Carlos, but I couldn't find him on the bed. I knew he must have left the room long ago because his own side of the bed was cold. I sighed heavily as I stretched my body as I walked toward the bathroom. I knew that I would have Kate change the bed sheets, and I was glad I wouldn't have to have sex with him in my room today, because today is Friday. I walked out of the bathroom, CL added, in a towel, and I dried my body with the towel. I wore the clothes which I had selected earlier. I walked to the dining hall to eat breakfast. I was given a week off by the Alpha to go and watch the outcome of the duel. I was glad that I wouldn't have to do any chores. I felt a new burst of energy flowing through my veins after a while, since I knew today as the D, that I would watch Jerome get hurt while trying to be with her mate. I changed into my wolf form behind a tree with my clothes in my wolf's mouth. A smile was on my face as I headed toward Erica's pack. I couldn't help but feel my wishes were going to come true. Little did I know that all that I wanted wouldn't happen. Chapter 56. Unknown. I wasn't happy with the fact that Jerome got away with today's match. I knew that this is what I should have expected because of his prowess, and I couldn't help but feel the need to make him stay away from her. I knew that the more he lingers with his mate is the more he will try to fasten up the process. I won't want him to recover her powers under my watch. Things would be disastrous if he was to regain his powers. I felt my eyes round with shock as I watched the match. I couldn't close my mouth. It came as a huge shock to me, and all I could think of was the dangers that come with her being with him. I knew things won't go as I have always wanted, but there is no way I'm accepting that. Things would fall my way and there is no one who would stop me from achieving my aim. And the most important things is that I have what I want in the end. I couldn't help but think of a way to stop her. It was like there is something holding me from getting things done my way. I felt like there is someone who is backing him out there. I knew that there is no way he would have been this great without anybody's help, and I knew it must be coming from Erica. I knew that Erica would go to extreme end to get him ready for tomorrow's match. I knew that he might lose the fight, but what he has trained himself for won't leave his mind. He won't forget all this, and might want to get back on his feet to fight for his mate. I knew that if he was to face us with determination, then there will be no one who will be able to stop him. I knew that I will have to do all the things needed for him to lose in tomorrow's fight. I was starting to think that Erica knew of his strength and identity, and that's why she was confident in the first place that he will win the duel. I knew that things will be drastic if she was to know. And I knew with no doubt that she was aware already. I couldn't help but wonder why the moon goddess has paired her with him. It would have been better if she was not a good figure in the werewolf world. I regretted not killing him the night I dropped him off at his pack. I couldn't help but feel the need to go back in time. I would have been able to correct my mistakes. I knew if I had killed him, then there will be no way he would be entangled with Erica. I felt like the mistake you made years ago is coming to hurt me, but I wasn't going to let that happen. I won't give him a chance to make that happen. He will be shocked and surprised with what I have for him. He won't be expecting it. Send for Alpha Rider, I said to the guard who was stationed at the front of my door. I'm here in my room in Erica's pack. The duel for the day was over, and I knew for sure that Erica would have been training him for tomorrow's duel, and I knew with no doubt that this would be more fun. I will make sure that Erica is humiliated. I knew that things might go wrong with the look of things, but I have no intention of giving up. I would rather find ways to scramble through it than give up what I have in stock for him. I was not going to give up what I've started for years. I would make sure that my wish comes true and that he remains just as an Omega. I heard a knock on the door, and I knew with no doubt the person at the door was Ryder. I was glad that he was able to come here as quickly as he can, and I knew that it was the fear of me being a council member. I knew that no one would be able to defile my order. I knew that's why Erica had accepted to let the duel take place. She bargained with me days later, saying that if the duel is to take place, then it must be in her pack. I wasn't going to allow that to happen, but she managed to convince me, and I knew that I should give her what she wanted. I knew that giving in to her demands might be useful for me. I knew that things might get turned back on us and I will have to find ways out of it. I knew that the chance of things getting shitty is 95%, but now the chances are increasing, and I must say his powers were being triggered. Come in, I replied, and the door opened and Alpha Rider walked in with his head bowed. Good, Alpha Rider was saying when I cut him short. I don't call you here for chit-chats, I said with a pause while staring at him authoritatively. I want you to win in tomorrow's duel. I will give you something in return. I hate his presence here in this pack. And how will he be able to lead this pack as an Omega? This pack, who is considered as the strongest of all pack in the country, will return to nothing but weak. I will win against him in the duel. You should be rest assured, said Ryder, and I stared at him with a chuckle. I knew with no doubt that if he knew how strong he was, if his powers were triggered, then he would be afraid of the impossible happening tomorrow. I knew that I would have to flow with things if it turned out to be what I hadn't expected at all. You shouldn't let your guard down. He won against the other Alpha and he was able to save them. He was underestimated and that made things easier, but I won't want that from you. I will make sure he disappears from this pack the moment he loses the duel. And he won't appear in your life anymore, I said, and I stared at his frail, trying to find out if he had any objections. He will be defeated tomorrow with no doubt, and he is going to be disgraced, Alpha Rider said. Chapter 57. Jerome. I stared at the Alpha in front of me, trying not to show my fears. My body was filled with fear, and I was glad that I was able to hold myself from shivering. It looks like this would be the end of me. This is more than I think. I felt my eyes getting cloudy, but I tried hard to hold it in. I could feel nervousness seeping through my body system. I stared at Erica, who gave me a thumb up. I was glad that it's someone like her. I was glad that she didn't leave me even after knowing that the chance of me winning in this duel is 10%. I knew that she had hope in me, that I would be able to win against my opponents, and I prayed that I would be able to. I felt my breath hitch as I remembered her words of encouragement which she said to me right before I entered the ring. I know that things won't go as easy as I want, but I'm ready to do anything to win the duel. No one would be stopping me from getting what I want. I would make sure I win. I have the urge to strive hard to win. I felt the need to be the winner. I felt that there is nothing I can do to make Erica happy other than for me to win, and that would be exactly what I would do. I will make sure that I win as because I want to be with Erica. I want to be with her for the rest of my life. I want her to be the mother of my unborn child. I knew this isn't the right place to say all this. I knew that I should also have the right to be with my mate, not under one person. I couldn't help but wish that I was able to contact my wolf. I knew that all this wouldn't have happened if I had my wolf in the first place. I knew that I felt the mating bond in all sorts, but this would have been if my wolf was with me. I would have felt the mate bond, and it would have made me closer to her. I felt my eyes getting cloudy, but I'm not going to let the tears fall free from my eyes without resistance. I would make sure that I was neither with my mate nor because of anybody. This was the first time I would be feeling this doubt since the duel started. I knew that I wasn't happy with the decisions of the Werewolf Council, but that had nothing to do with being depressed, but instead I was striving hard to win the duel, but me coming to the end of the duel made things worse. I wonder what would happen if I lost my mate to the fellow in front of me. I would never be able to forgive myself, and all I can do is that I should not give up. I would make sure that no matter what my opponent did, I would find ways for me to stay inside the ring, and I'm sure that he would also be interested in killing me since I didn't give up. I know what I want and I'm wishing for isn't something good, but there is nothing I can do about it. I charged toward Alpha Rider readily after knowing that there was no way I would win it. I keep calm like before. I knew that he wouldn't be expecting me to attack, and that was what I would do. I slid on the floor wanting to punch his stomach, but he ducked sideways. I stood up immediately knowing that he might attack from nowhere. I charged toward him again with a fake punch which he saw through. He punched my mouth and I felt blood seeping into my mouth. My eyes turned red with anger and I charged toward him again speedily with an angry look on my face. I punched his stomach, but he doesn't seem to feel it. I kicked him in his groin and he groaned in pain while I punched his jaws. He staggered backwards while glowing daggers at me. I charged at him with full force hoping to attack him, but what happened next shocked me to my bone marrow. I was called by Alpha Rider, who wasted no time punching me angrily. He grabbed me and he threw me away, but not too far to throw me out of the ring. I crashed on the floor with pains all over my body. I could feel the need to submit to my loss immediately, but I have made up my mind not to give up. I knew that Erica wouldn't be happy with the fact that I gave up so easily. I knew that she wasn't going to be angry with me, but I feel like I haven't done anything yet. I feel like I owe her. I feel like me winning this duel and not giving up easily is the only way to pay her back. So weak and pathetic. I heard a voice said in my head and I creased my brows with confusion while staring around trying to find who was talking to me without focusing my mind on the duel. I knew the voice was coming from my head, but I tried not to believe it. You are too weak for my liking. Is this how you will win your mate? You want to lose my mate to this lowly fellow? I heard the voice say, and I couldn't help but feel that the voice was that of my wolf. I knew that from because he made mention of our mate. I knew that he was right, that there is no way I should let my guard down. I was lost in thoughts that I didn't know when Alpha Rider advances toward me with anger. He punched me heavily, and before I could react he started punching my face. I felt my heart seize immediately with pain all over my body. I knew that this is the moment I lose this match. There is nothing I could do. All that I can do is to stay and fight. I will not give up to him. I couldn't help but wonder why my wolf was silent again, and I knew that must have been because of me being in pain. I knew he would be in pain too. I couldn't help but feel bad about it. My wolf, who has been silent all these years, returned, but this time angrily. Just when I was able to contact my wolf and being beaten, I knew that the pain I was feeling would be transferred to him also. He would also feel the pains I was passing through, and I felt bad about it. I don't know why I have to be paired with such a weak person. I'm going to help, but only this time, the voice said again. I closed my eyes and I saw a brown-looking wolf who has grey eyes. I suddenly felt myself fall into oblivion. I opened my eyes and I couldn't feel myself. It was like I wasn't in control of my body. I couldn't help but wonder what was going on. I could see what was going on, but I couldn't feel or understand myself. It was under the control of someone. I stood up suddenly and I used my hand to dust my body. I knew that all this wasn't done by me and that nobody would suspect this. I knew that because I acted normal. I attacked Alpha Rider and soon I started punching him heavily. Alpha Rider was shocked that he wasn't able to react. He stared at me in shock, and before he knew it I carried him and I threw him out of the ring. I immediately regained my senses immediately as he was thrown out of the ring. I knew for sure that the person responsible for this must have been my wolf. I stared at my hand in surprise, not knowing what had come over me to make me beat him up. I was shocked and I stared at Alpha Rider, who had stood up from the ground with a defeated look on his face. The head counsel was about announcing me as the winner when Alpha Rider charged at me angrily. He wanted to punch me, but I felt my body move sideways without my control. I did a bicycle kick and my kick met with his head. Everyone was surprised with everything going on and same with me. I knew that they couldn't believe that I would win, and not only that but Alpha Rider had attacked me well after knowing that I won already. It was against the rule of the duel to attack after being defeated. I carried him under the control of my wolf, and I threw him out of the ring for the second time, but he stood up almost immediately with anger, and he shifted into his wolf from tearing his clothes. I felt my breath hitch with fear. I knew that all what I've done so far had been because of my wolf, but I doubt if my wolf will be able to stand against him in wolf form. I felt my body shivering with fear, and immediately he charged toward me. I felt something change in the air, and I suddenly had the boldness to look at him. "Stop!" I yelled at him, and just like that he bent his head while trying to stand up but couldn't. I looked around and I saw that some of the council members were bowing their heads, and some went to all the people present except Erica. "You should take care of yourself from now. Stop acting like a coward," I heard him say, and I stared at him in confusion. "You must be my wolf," I replied, even though I knew that was right, but I want to hear it from my wolf. "Yes, I am. The next time you get yourself into trouble, I'm not interfering," he said, and with that he vanished immediately. I could feel my eyes starting to get dizzy. I tried hard to hold myself from falling unconscious, but I couldn't. I fell down immediately, and my visit turned black.